Come on.
They're right there!
Let's go. Move, 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 move. This episode of Choices Not Chances podcast is sponsored by Louisiana Gun Shop, located on Highway 90 West in Broussard, Louisiana, just south of Lafayette. For more information, stay tuned at the end of this episode. This is Choices Not Chances podcast with Ryan and Matt. I'm your co-host, Matthew Charette. Sitting next to me is Ryan Rogers. Ryan.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choices Not Chances, and just like every other episode, you see something that touches you, something information that you need to get out to the rest of the population, rest of the community. Please share it to all platforms. Tag the show. Tonight I got a little bit different of an episode for you, but all the same, there's goods to take out of it. Just tons of nuggets. But tonight I have Dominique Williams on the show. He's a former NFL running back, played with multiple teams. Had an amazing, college career, and we talk about life coming up, and the sacrifices made by, families, friends, and family members of his own to get him to the path and to get him to the opportunity where he could succeed and take football all the way to the top. And once he gets up, he takes a knee injury, and then he takes another knee injury, and the career that was just within grasp starts to slip. And Dom has to make a transition. He has to understand, hey, no matter what, I've done this from, the time I was 12 years old or younger even until well into adulthood. What do you do now? And you have to reinvent yourself and refine yourself. And so we talk about that path of refining himself to a point where Dom now is impacting his community and the youth in his community in insurmountable ways. He has a transitioning athlete program where he mentors and talks to transitioning athletes. He coaches, he speaks. He now speaks at several different venues. And shows and talks about the way he came up and maybe the mistakes that he made and the good things that he did and hard work and perseverance in the face of diversity. And so it's one that I couldn't wait to get out there. Just got it done, and I'm excited for you guys to hear. Dom Williams, thanks for coming to the show, man.
Oh, man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start off with how we became acquainted and then try to get into the early life. But first, Kyle Mahaliks, I know that's a mutual friend that we have, and I recorded him not long ago and got to talking to him, and it was great. We had a great recording, a great session, and then he put me onto your content and say, hey, man, this is one of the guys. I believe you went to high school together or all school?
Yeah. We went to high school together.
Yeah, so he's like, yeah, you gotta look into this, man. Two different worlds, but worlds that have very similar, outcomes in the end for right. Guys. So yeah, I was like, absolutely, try to line it up, and then I got sick, and then finally here we are after a couple of months of trying to put it down, and finally got in the new house, got the new studio put together, so everything's feeling comfortable. But that's how we became acquainted, and so let's get started. We'll go with early life first. I want to know where you started, and the family dynamic. Mom, dad, brothers, sisters, and then we'll touch on religion if religion was in the home after that. But how did the Dominique Williams start?
Oh man, it's definitely tough. Definitely tough. And trying to remember, my start, it's kind of some PTSD. I will say that, where I grew up in my hometown was really rough. Projects, that's where we started. But my mother and my father both worked very hard to move us into a home once I turned 7 years old. So, I had my mother and my father in my life, my entire life. I still talk to them every single day, if not every day, every other day. Me and my father will talk, once a week or something like that. But with that was, my brother. I have an older brother, an older sister, two older sisters actually. and another older brother and a younger brother. So all of us didn't live together, right? So, my dad had a few kids and my mom had two. So the ones that lived with me was my older brother. His name was Milford. My older sister, her name was Marquita. Then my older brother, he was a little bit closer to me in Kyle's age. His name was Alex. So, we kind of all grew up together. We were like, we would be the entertainment whenever whenever my mom had friends or something over. And that's kind of where I got my shine, right? And this is how I knew I was going to be something in performing. I didn't know I was going to be a speaker. I thought I'd be an actor.
All right.
But yeah. So we as a family, we would perform in front of friends, and my leadership stuck out where I would have us practicing. I'm the youngest of the family, but I have us practicing, and I'm the lead singer. So my dad told me I had something special, and I believed it, and I took it all the way to the NFL, man.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. So as you're coming up, you got some rough uh, surroundings. Let's say you're coming up in a rougher side of town, and what's that look like as you're coming up?
I mean, as you coming up, you don't really realize it until you're able to articulate what it was, right? For me, it was family. Everybody was family. Everybody had their doors open. I can go in anybody's house that lived out there. Majority of them were, my play aunts and cousins. So like it was one big family, but you don't realize that some of the guys that you looked up to and that were uncles, they were selling drugs and shooting and things like that. So I didn't know in the moment what I was experiencing or what I was into. Right? It wasn't until I got older to where I was like, oh, we were living like that, because I cried when we moved. That's where all my friends were, running around the neighborhood. I mean, I cried when we moved. I didn't want to move.
Yeah.
But then I realized why my parents moved.
Yeah. How old do you think you were when you started to have that realization, or you started to realize that your normal was not everybody's normal?
College. Yeah. College, when I experienced the other side of it.
Okay,
right?
so let me interject. Get me to college, because at some point you're playing sports. When does that start? Is that an early childhood we start playing sports, or?
Yeah, so I started playing t-ball and baseball. Baseball was my actual first love.
Okay.
I loved baseball. So I was playing baseball from 4 or 5 years old, because I was a lot bigger than my age. I was playing baseball from 4 to 5 and all the way up until my freshman year in high school.
Check. Now you playing pee-wee or midget football as well, or?
Yeah, I started playing football in like 1998, so I think I was probably like 7, 8 years old. And from there, I didn't even like it.
Yeah,
I liked playing in the neighborhood, but I remember my first day where I finally got the pads on, and like I said, I was big for my age, so, and I'm thinking that I'm going to bully and push everybody, but it was a different story when you put the pads on.
Yeah.
So I remember going against one of my friends, who actually was like one of my best friends, and he hit me so hard. I told my dad, I don't think I want to play football anymore. I don't think I want to play this anymore. And one thing that my dad instilled in me, and his philosophy in the house was, once you start, you don't quit.
Yep.
If you don't like it now, just stick it out for the rest of the season. If you don't like it at the end of the season, then you don't have to play next year. But once you start, you don't quit. And I'm glad they didn't let me quit, because we see how that ended up.
Yeah, it turned out working out, looks like. Yeah. So that's cool. And so you don't quit, and you play through high school. Take me through some of the more inspirational or impactful moments of high school sports, particularly.
Right. So I'll tell you, Kyle, right? Kyle was a senior when I was a freshman.
Okay.
And I kind of came into, I don't know if you remember this story, but I kind of came into camp late because I was traveling with the All-Star team playing baseball.
Okay.
So I came into football camp late, and a lot of my friends were saying you have to fight for a spot on the freshman team, and I'm okay with that, right? Like I said, my dad he's a hardworking guy, so he's like, yeah, you got to earn it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. So as I'm fighting for a spot on a freshman team, I ended up becoming the starting linebacker with the varsity team.
Nice.
Right. And I played the entire season as, the start strong side linebacker to Sam.
Mm-hmm.
And, I wish we would have played running back. I tell Kyle this. Hope he's listening when this comes out. I should have been playing running back. We probably would have went a lot further than we did. A lot more games. I'm just saying.
I hope the coach is listening.
Kyle was the quarterback. So
okay.
He was good.
Yeah, man, that's cool. Yeah, he had nothing but high words of praise about you, and want to make sure that we linked up. So that's too cool. So, you guys, how far did you guys go?
Man, we only won. I think we won like 7 games that year.
Okay.
And we missed the playoffs.
Okay, and then, Kyle leaves, does what he does, and you're playing still, I would assume, right? Do you guys continue to get better as you come up in high school and get older? Or I'm just trying to figure out, like, recruitment. That's going to be hard if you're not on a team that's getting exposure,
Right. So that's absolutely right. And I'll tell you more about that story. So once Kyle and them left, the following season, we had only won 3 games, and I still wasn't playing running back. They started to put me at running back a little bit, fullback towards the end of the season. That's when I started to get a little bit more carries, and that's when coach was like, okay, we got something. So my junior year, I'm the starting running back.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're winning more games. We go into the playoffs, and we lose to the championship team in the semifinals.
Nice.
I mean,
it's not nice to lose, but that's making it deep, at least,
Right. So that was, my junior year. And that team we lost to, they had 17 Division I athletes.
Holy smokes.
We had none.
Yeah.
But we were tough, man. Like I said, where we're from, we were coached really, really tough. So my senior year, still starting running back, but I'm facing a little adversity with the town and some of my players, right? Some of my teammates. I was getting a lot of shine, and it wasn't received well by a lot of people on my team.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how that goes. So I tried to share the load. Where games where I could have taken over, I tried to share, and we lost a few games during the regular season, but again, we got back to the semifinals just the game before the championship, and we lose 20-14.
Mm.
And the team was beating us 20-0 in the first quarter.
Mm. That's a good game right there.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a 2-hour drive on a Friday night, where a lot of us were tired by the time we got to the game, and we actually got to the game late.
Yeah,
we weren't really able to warm up for it. So we got down 20-0, and then we just started coming back, and then there was so many moments in the game where I could have taken over, but I didn't. But that was me allowing other people's opinion to affect who I was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure that's got to be hard. Like, you see the varsity. What was the one? Not Varsity Blues, but
Remember the Titans?
Well, you see that one, and you see what was the TV series about Texas football? Friday Night Lights and stuff like that. And like, yeah, like I couldn't have taken any pressure as a 16 or 17-year-old kid. Don't put pressure on me, like, for anything. I wasn't even in that situation, but that's a hard thing. And then if you're starting to get hated on because of the shine, like, you're doing good for somebody and now you're getting hated on, like, that's got to be a lot, going through psychologically for a young man to go through. And they, it's cliche or age old, let's say, like it happens every year. There's kids coming up that are in these situations every single year, and so it's an interesting thing to look at. But it's also, for me, it seems odd to me that your own teammates would not, like, I feel like I would want that. Yeah, hell yeah, we got the running back that's tearing everybody apart, so like Andy's getting you exposure where exposure might not have been before. So it seems strange to me, but I guess that's humans, right?
Right. I never really understood it, man.
Was there any personal beef, or was it strictly about the shine?
I think, man, nothing personal. I'm reserved. I'm laid back. I get along with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have much to say unless you ask me questions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hang with the same people. Like it's crazy to look back that on my team, it's probably about 3 or 4 people that went to prison for murder.
Oh wow.
It was gang members on the team, like everything you can name. So it's hard to fathom exactly what you go through until you have to tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, to me, they were just my friends I grew up with. But you look on paper, these are drug dealers, murderers. Some of them are doing very, very well for themselves now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
What was the key, at least coming up through high school, what was the key to not getting sucked into that riffraff, to not, because it's easy, I think it could be easy to get sucked into that, especially when everything's just going right, you're crushing it, you got your friends are in it. I mean, it's hard if your friends are in some stuff to not be in some stuff. So, like, what's that look like?
It's just choices, man. At the end of the day, I knew that I didn't want to have to walk around and look over my shoulder everywhere I went. I love my life, so I didn't want to be in that type of environment. And like I said, I thought the beef, quote unquote, was just dumb. It's like, you live here and we live there, and that's why you're fighting. So a lot of the stuff just didn't make sense to me. And I like women. I like girls. Like, I didn't want to be. I didn't want to have to argue with you for nothing. I just wanted to have fun. You know what I mean? And talk to girls. Like, that was my mission, and make money. Like, I was an entrepreneur in high school.
Yeah.
So I was, my aunt had bouncy houses, so that was a business that we ran together. I was folding up bouncy houses every weekend and working at Wawa after practice. I didn't really have time for it, man.
Yeah. Well, it's like all that bullying and drama seems to end right there when people become adults. And if you're being an entrepreneur and doing adult things in high school, you don't have time for that. You don't have time for the drama. You don't care about the drama. For a lot of people, when they ain't got nothing else going on, or maybe even they're privileged to the point where they're able to sit and just bathe in everybody else's drama. I don't get that. Even some adults do that. I've seen adults that do it. So especially with the social media age, and everybody's drama being a click away, or a phone swipe away. So, but gotcha. So, at what point are you noticing that or the shine is, as you say, is on you enough to know that you could take this to the next level?
Man, to be honest with you, I didn't think it was enough. Because when you're in it, you don't realize what's going on. So not only was I the starting running back, I was the starting middle linebacker calling the defense. I was the kicker. I was the punter. I was the punt returner at times. I was the kick returner at times. So I had a lot of roles on the field to where I had to preserve my energy throughout the game. Now, if I had the opportunity to just play one position, I probably would have been All-American.
Yeah.
But I had to last a true 60 minutes without coming off of the field.
Yeah.
So for me, I wasn't even recruited out of high school for that reason.
Okay.
My film wasn't good enough for some coaches.
Sure.
But they didn't understand why.
So Okay, so what happens? You graduate high school, you do a walk-on situation, or what's this look like?
So from not getting recruited, I was determined. I emailed about every college coach in the world. I just was emailing them. I would show up to camps. I would try to compete with guys, and nothing was happening for me. I would say one school probably was, the University of Maine. I think they were interested, but for some reason my film wasn't getting out. And this is back when it was VHS tapes
Yep.
and DVD.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So, they were trying my transcripts and film, and they couldn't for some reason. So I ended up asking one of the guys in the neighborhood. He's also like a mentor and brother to me still to this day, who went to the University of Iowa, played football at the University of Iowa. And I just showed him my tape, and I said, do you think I could play at the next level with you being at Iowa? And this is after I graduated high school and everything.
Yeah.
I wasn't even going to college or anything. So we were working like a summer program for kids together. And I just showed him my video, my highlight tape, and he said, absolutely, you can play. So he called his roommate, who was a coach at a prep school, a post-grad program. So when he called his roommate, he let his roommate know who I was, and his roommate said, we got 7 or 8 running backs. I mean, he could come up here and try out, but I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of these guys already have offers. These are top guys from the nation going to one prep school, but maybe he may find something. And I'm just like, man, all these opportunities, just let me come.
Yeah.
So I went to a post-grad program called Milford Academy. That's where I went.
Check. Now, okay, so walk me through this. You just went up there to the camp and you showed out, and they were like, yeah, we'll take this dude. I mean, is that how that went down, or?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I always refer back to my parents because they instilled something tremendous in me that I didn't even know, some tremendous values. My dad always taught me to outwork everybody, and my mom always taught me to be patient. So while you're working and you're not seeing the results, just keep working and be patient, it'll come. So as I got to the camp, everybody was already there for a long time. They were running and doing everything they were doing. I busted. I outworked everybody. Although I started off, not coming in first in sprints in the first week, that second week, I'm not even the second week, in 3 or 4 days, I was winning every sprint, leading every pack. I was the leader of everything that we did. I was the dog. I turned my Ray Lewis on. That's what I said.
Yeah.
I turned my Ray Lewis on. I motivated guys, and I'm being myself. And the coaches saw that, and they said, we want you to be here. But it's going to cost $19,000. That wasn't something that my parents just had to give. But my mother was so determined for all of her kids to do what they wanted to do. She said, if this is what you really want and you believe in it, I'll find a way. So, my mom and her friends, they started to form a group to sell, food platters. My mom was about to sell her car and trade her house in and do anything for me to go to this school. And while I'm up there, I get a phone call. And, oh, man, I get a phone call from my mom, and she's kind of in tears. My senior year, my aunt was murdered by her boyfriend, and she was a correction officer, and she had a life insurance policy. So while I was up in school and we were trying to figure out how to pay for me to go to school, my mom called me, and my grandma got money from my aunt's life insurance policy.
Wow.
So from that life insurance policy, they paid for me to go to that school. Wow. So the rest was history. There was no turning back.
Yeah, you got to win.
Yeah, it has to work.
Awesome. It's not awesome how it happened, but that's That's wild. That's a wild start to the story.
Yeah.
So you get this money, you get into Milford Prep. Is that what you said?
Yeah, Milford Academy.
Milford Academy. Okay, and you said that's a postgraduate prep school from high school.
Yeah, so it was almost like 13th grade.
check. I got you. All right, and so how long you play there for a year?
Nah, because so a lot of kids go to that school if they don't have the grade point average to get into the college or university that have a scholarship from, or their SATs don't align. Mine were good. I'm sorry about that. Mine were good. So when I got there, I was just trying to get recruited because I wasn't recruited really out of high school.
Right.
So a lot of my teammates had already had scholarships to like the University of Florida, Pitt, the University of Miami, sure. USC. Like it was guys going all over the place. So if I knew that if I could play with them, I could play anywhere in the country.
Yeah.
And that was my sell to my mom and my dad. It was like, yo, these guys are ranked in the nation and I'm better than them. Mm-hmm, I know for that I'm better than them. Just let me get there and I promise you I'll make this money back for y'all. And it paid off. I ended up getting recruited by a ton of schools, but without knowing the recruiting process, I ended up going to a college where my best friend was playing basketball at.
Okay.
So it was D1 and they were offering money, so I just went to the college and then college ended up being Wagner College.
Okay. Wagner.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. And where's that at, first off?
Staten Island, New York.
Okay, check. Yeah. I didn't find that in my research. So tell me about that. Tell me about obviously there's going to incorporate you moving, you going there. Did you go to check the college out, or was it like I got an offer, I'm going there?
Well, I had offers from a few other colleges, so I did take some visits. I went to I took an official visit to the University of Iowa as well. They ended up dropping me from the scholarship. And funny because the coach that had me on my visit when I was at the University of Iowa ended up coaching at Wagner. So I went to Wagner just to go and have fun and get away from Milford Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Not knowing that I would actually go to school there. So I was only going to Milford for a semester.
Oh, okay.
So after the football season was over in November, I was home all the way until the next August.
Which is when you went to Wagner.
And that's when I went to Wagner, yeah.
All right, so earlier you asked the question of when did you realize that your reality isn't the same as others. You say it's in college. How far into that was you're talking about Wagner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's when, I started to read more. I wasn't really a reader. Actually, my reading comprehension was probably on like a 7th or 8th grade level once I got to college. I didn't want to embarrass myself, so I used to go into the library at like 12 midnight when in the basement of the library when everybody would be partying or something. I would go and sneak into the library and like kind of teach myself new words and how to read and like how to retain what I just read. Sometimes I would read it decent, but I wouldn't receive it well, so I wouldn't be able to spit it back out to you.
Mm-hmm.
So once I started being able to read and understand, again, how to articulate myself and express what I went through, that's when I started to realize, like, oh, I went through some stuff.
Yeah.
Although I may not have went through the same thing that a lot of my friends went through, I still went through a lot of stuff. And I'm like, oh, this isn't normal. Because I got friends who parents buy them Porsches just to come to school. Right?
Yeah.
It was friends that, they were mad that their parents denied their credit card. And I'm like, here I am. I'm got $20 in my pocket.
Thankful, so thankful that you got the opportunity.
So thankful.
Yeah.
So, that's when I started to realize, like, wow, this is a totally different world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's weird as you get older how you start to look back and you see things. Either it was just so much different than what you thought when you grew up.
Yeah.
A lot of people see that. A lot of people talk about that. So now seeing this other side, or seeing did that cause animosity or beef or anything, or was it just it was all good and now we're here and you're gonna work?
Well, for me, it was a realization. It was like, yo, that's obtainable.
Hmm.
I see you. I see how you behave. I see you're a regular human being. I met your parents, so I'm like, oh, I can have that too.
Hmm.
There is no, you're no different than I am. So that's when it was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Now I just need to figure out how they did it,
Mm-hmm.
because my normal life was in the hood. Like literally, I didn't know that the way that I was living wasn't normal, or
Yeah.
it wasn't. I wouldn't say not necessarily normal, but it wasn't right.
Yeah. 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 I mean, that's hard. That's hard to level with too. I mean, I don't have your same situation, but like for instance, when me and Kyle went to Marja, their normal is so drastically different than what even like anybody in the West is normal is, and so that's weird. And and then you see, oh, there's free people, or you see, oh, these kids, like I can do that, or hopefully we can breathe that in, while we were over there. But just like you're seeing these other kids, like there is another side to this, and it is obtainable. That's like it's almost like a like such a freedom to know that. Like I feel that
Right.
same way. Like when I see people speaking, I follow Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher. I love his work, man. I love his work, and I seen him like maybe I don't know, like 6 years ago. I started watching his little, his Instagram videos and stuff like that. And I'm like, hang on. This is just another guy. This is a guy that's able to empathize and synthesize information in a raw emotional and inspirational tone, and he's changing hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people's lives for the positive, just by speaking to them. I got to figure this out, and that was like my drive to go into school to speak to get that.
Right.
And so it's amazing. Amazing what can happen. I kind of got lost in what my point there was, but yeah, we can move on. Let me ask you. Let me ask you this: was before we get too much further into football, what you speak now, was that something then? Like, is that something that you had wanted to do, or did it all? I know you talked about performing, being younger and performing. Did that keep on all the way through school? Did you have some kind of performance aspect?
Yes, not to cut you off. My bad.
No, please.
So in high school, I got into the drama club.
Okay.
My older brother, he was kind of, he was my older brother. He was unique, right? He liked different things. So, everybody would kind of pick on him and call him Spaceman. But my brother was very intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a lot of people didn't realize. So he loved acting and loved to bring his ideas to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw him in acting, I was like, okay, let me try it too, so that everybody's not just picking on my brother, right? I'm popular too, so what you gonna say now? I'm in drama club. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was like my thought process behind joining the drama club and just trying different things. And when I got into drama, when I got into acting, it was natural because it was something that I was doing my entire life. So I actually wanted to be an actor. That's what I really got. That was my passion.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say Ray Lewis is my favorite football. Right. Sorry about that, man.
No worries.
Ray Lewis is my favorite football player. So when I would see him in the middle of the circle on a Sunday afternoon, and he's talking to those guys, those men. I mean, man, I would be ready to tackle the screen.
Yeah,
And
man.
they would give me that snippet. So I was so passionate, I would start acting like Ray Lewis at home. So my brother, my brothers and sisters, they used to be like, yo, you gotta go somewhere. Like, you getting annoying. So, and I would be like, if you ain't ready to wash the dishes, you gotta go to bed because this is for grown folks. Like, just going, just like, amped up. Like,
Yeah.
I'm excited, ripping my shirts off. And I was also into wrestling and things like that. So it kind of translated, right? When I got into football, I would just let it out.
Yeah.
I would be frustrated, but I would also, I'm not down on anybody. I'm trying to lift everybody up. Yo, we can do this.
Yeah.
And I started, my teammates started clapping, and I started like, yeah, I like this.
Yeah.
So every year I found myself in the middle of that circle. But the real work was done when, we were on the sidelines, and I can see somebody not feeling themselves, and I will go and talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just motivate them that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, this is my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that until I was trying to find myself after football.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, and we can come back, but I want you to dive into that statement a little further. And maybe we'll come back to that because maybe it's a little further forward. Because after football, so you play football, and you do very well, and you play football for a long time, from when you were little all the way up. And then when you don't have football, is that when you're saying you had to find yourself again? It's like find that new purpose again.
Yep, absolutely. I tore my ACL June 2018. I think I got surgery in July. So I had some time to kind of think about what I wanted to do. Did I want to go back and play football? Or did I want to just end it right now, rip the Band-Aid off? I kind of didn't want to let go because I saw the potential. Mm-hmm. I saw what I was able to do while I was in the NFL, but I really didn't get my true shot, right? I didn't get my true shot. Although I was, in the NFL on practice squads, and I just kept getting injured, I didn't really get my true shot. So I was still trying to chase that moment. Because I seen a lot of running backs, and I'm like, I can do this. I can do this now. Like, there wasn't really a belief. I just went for it. Mm-hmm. But when I got there, I was like, I could do this. But after I tore my ACL, that was my second ACL tear, different knee. I just sat in the room and I thought about it, and I said, you know what? I'm going to walk away. Mm-hmm. I'm going to walk away. This is it for me. No more football. And I just literally cried for like a week straight.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, you really gonna give up? Your dad told you never quit until it's finished. Mm-hmm. And I had to literally pray about it. Am I finished? Because I struggled with that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people said, like, what was you doing crying? Like, man up. It's like, yo, nah, this is something I've been doing since I was a kid. And I'm right there. I'm right there. I'm at my dream. And this is how it ends. I was torn. And I just remember somebody asking me to come speak to kids. And I didn't know what to say to them. I had no clue what to say to them. And as I'm thinking about what to say to them, I just remember saying, Dag, it's time to reinvent yourself. What are you going to do now? Like, what are you going to do? And I had a student success coach in college, and she helped me figure out my major. And she drew these circles, and it was two circles that kind of locked together, and there was like a little oval in the middle. And
a
on
Venn
one
diagram,
side,
right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was like a ikigai. So on one of the circles, she had me write, what are you good at? Like just naturally, what are you good at?
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, she said, I want you to write, what do you like to do?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What are some of the things and activities that you like? If you like talking, write that. And she just, had me do those. So I brought that to her and she was like, okay, out of all of these, what are your top 5 things? So I circled my top 5 on each side. And she said, Leon, let's look up professions that correlate to these 10 things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we started writing down professions in the middle to tie all of the two circles together.
Mm-hmm.
And that, he was like, you ever thought about teaching? I said, heck no, I'm not. I would never be a teacher. Heck no. She was like, well, that's kind of what you do anyway. You ever thought about social work? And I was like, nah, what is social work? So she explained what social work was, and I was like, okay, I like that. But I think I would like to be like a guidance counselor. I want to help kids. Like I wanted to help the younger me.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody, although I had great parents, they didn't really know how to get me into college. And I wish that a guidance counselor could have told me like, hey, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
Here's how to get you there. And I was like, man, there's so many kids that could use somebody like me in a guidance counselor. So that was kind of like my thought process.
Mm-hmm.
But again, going back to being asked to speak to kids, it's like, well, what am I going to tell them? And what am I going to teach them?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're asking me to come and inspire them. So I know with inspiration comes some form of teaching. So I said, well, what can I teach them from my life? So I started to look back at my life, and that's when I started to see the young Ray Lewis, the guy that would be standing in a circle and yelling and trying to motivate everybody and, really trying to uplift people with their own experiences and letting them know like, yo, you got it.
Mm-hmm.
This close, don't give up now. So that was kind of like my approach. And when I went and I spoke, I referenced one of my favorite books, The Alchemist, where I was kind of telling the kids, it's like the reason I made it to the NFL was because I realized that I had a gift. And within that story of The Alchemist, there's sorry about that. In the story of The Alchemist, there's a shepherd boy, and he's trying to find his purpose, basically. And that's not what he called it in the book, but he's trying to basically find his calling, his purpose. And he travels the world and he goes to see the alchemist. And long story short, he ends up right back home, right back under the tree where he started at. And for some reason, he dug up under the tree and he found the treasure. That's what it was. He was trying to find the treasure. So the treasure was where he was in the beginning, right? You don't have to search for it. It's already within you.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of like my message to them. And they were like, yo, that's deep. A lot of people were like, yeah, that's kind of deep. And I was actually preaching to them. Well, not preaching. I was actually motivating myself with that.
Yeah.
Because it came out of nowhere. And that was like the 5th time of me reading The Alchemist. And I just so happened to speak about that. And I was like, you're not going to find your purpose until you dig within. You don't have to search for it out there. It's already in you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that was my aha moment. Like, yeah, this is what you're supposed to do, genius. Mm-hmm. You're telling them that their purpose is already within them. They don't have to go searching for it. You need to take the same advice. So I was like, okay, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this: when you did that first speaking event, what did it feel like? Like when you got done, what did it feel like?
It felt fulfilling.
Yeah.
It felt fulfilling for sure. It was like I was able to inspire somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was able to go back to my neighborhood as an NFL player and the kids get to see me.
Mm-hmm.
right? There was an NFL player by the name of George Jamerson from where me and Kyle is from, but I never got to see him. It's just an urban legend to me. But for me to be able to go back home so that the kids can see me, like you saw me on TV jumping over people, and you saw me on TV scoring touchdowns. Now you get to see me in real life. That was something that was lacking heavily in my hometown, is that you didn't see success, right? I didn't see success until I got to college.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because that's a lot of why we started this show, is because, like, everybody has their own demons and their own struggles, and I get it. I've had mine. I still have mine. Everybody's got that, but we wanted to be, there's plenty of shows like ours. There's no doubt about it. But what was lacking was there wasn't any Marines telling Marine stories. For me, there wasn't. You got Jocko with the Navy SEALs and Andy Stone. You got these guys doing their communities. And so I wanted to do a show where I brought, it started off that way, and now it's morphing into what it's morphing into. We're rolling with it. We're opening up different dynamics. But I wanted people to see that you can go to war and really war the way me and Kyle and Matt warred. Like, we got it on, and there was a lot, and it was the whole time. And somehow now I'm going to show you that I got back, I got better, I got well. I'm going to help you get well. I'm going to let you see. And like, yeah, they don't see me. I'm not in their town. But much like yourself, I came back home. When I got retired, I got out and I lost that purpose, man. I'm just kind of spun for a couple of years and didn't know, like, how does my war fighting translate to the civilian population? What do I do now? Because I didn't want to get out. And kind of same thing. I finally, I was like, I've got to do this. I seen that, I started following Eric Thomas and still doing menial jobs. And I'm like, started writing a book about, the memoir about Marja, and realized I wasn't a writer, right? And so now I got to go to school. So the things I wanted to go to school for was to be a better writer. And I knew I wanted to speak to my community. I knew the power in that from watching E.T. and, these other guys do it. And what's cool is, like, I go to school, I learn, I finished the book, and then I came back and got booked for a speaking gig just after I got done and had my confidence up, and I've learned, and I'm ready, and I get booked a speaking gig to go over to the Marines on Camp Lejeune, where I retired out of, who are getting ready to go on a pump they're at the end of a leadership week, and I get to speak, and I get to do that. And I always ask people when they tell me they speak, and I ask them about their first times, because it's like, my first speaking event was so, it was just such a, I think just such a sensation and an emotion of, like what you said, just fulfillment. Like, I told myself I was going to do this, and I did it, and it was received well, and so I felt like, it's times like that where you feel like you're right where you're supposed to be, like that Will Smith, Pursuit of Happiness moment where you just, where you got it. And that's how I felt when I spoke. That's how I felt. I got my whole body tingled, and just like you're like, instantly, yup, that's exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I'm here and I'm doing right what I was supposed to be doing. So I always try to ask that question. So you get your first speaking gig, that lands. Where do you go from there? What do you, like, you realize, okay, this is what I want to do. What's the next step? How do you book more? Like, how does that work out?
Well, I struggled. I struggled because after watching the playback of it, I'm coaching myself, I'm critiquing myself, and I'm just like, man, that was horrible. You stumbling over words. I'm not motivated myself from watching it. Although I might have said some great things in the moment, I prolonged it. I was just talking. That was what it was. Mm-hmm. I was motivated. I thought people were, making the sounds like, oh, that was good. But for me, I'm just like, dag, I'm all over the place. Mm. So I struggled with it. and it wasn't lucrative. I needed money. I wasn't paid for that first gig.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up, one of our friends, a guy that was a freshman with me on the same team with Kyle, he had ended up getting the head coaching job at the high school. So I told him, I said, I'll come coach with you for 4 years and kind of help you build the program. So I ended up taking a job at the high school and coaching there.
And what was the high school called?
Bridgeton, BRIDGT, like Bridgeton, TON. BRIDGETON.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Bridgeton.
So, yeah. So I ended up doing that and falling in love with coaching. So I'm like, and all coaching is motivating as well. That's the same thing, same concept. But it's just playing chess with kids. Right. It's really what it is. But man, I just kept going at it, and I never gave up on it.
Yeah.
But I also found myself, as I'm studying the craft, I found myself speaking like the people I was studying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I would record myself and it's not coming across authentic. And it's just like, dag.
Yeah.
I don't have to yell like E.T. I don't have to, raise my voice to an extent like Inky Johnson, like those guys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to say big words like Brian Tracy or John Maxwell. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm Jim Rohn and those guys. So it's like, yo, if I can teach this to a third grader, everybody will get it and everybody will appreciate it.
Fact.
So that was kind of like my approach of finding my own voice. Now I'm still finding my voice.
Yeah.
Right. Still figuring out like what works for me, what's authentic, and what's going to reach the audience that I'm speaking to.
Sure. Now, what is let's talk about like what's one of your favorite speaking events you did, like venue wise, audience wise?
Man, one of my favorite events was a classroom. I just spoke to a couple of kids in a classroom, and it got deep. I opened up my entire story, and I just remember each and every kid coming to me after that class saying like, thank you. Although I thought I was being weak in the moment, something just said, just explain it. Just let them know, like, you have those feelings too. Like, everybody has those thoughts, but, as a masculine man, it's like, I don't want to be that vulnerable to where I open up like that.
Now, what was the what's the premise? What are you talking about as far as, as what thoughts for a masculine man? Because I hear that a lot too, and I'd like to dig a little deeper into it.
Right. So, just mentioning like, so I'll tell you some of what I talked about then. I told him about a moment where I was drinking every single night. I'm in the NFL, so I'm showing up to practice drunk. But I'm still killing it though, right? And that's the crazy part. But I didn't know how to express my feelings, right? And everything that I was going through. I was in love with 2 different women at the same time. I wanted to marry one, but I wanted to be with the other. And I remember just going, like my life just spiraling out of control. I'm drinking too much. I'm partying every night. I'm trying to suppress how I really feel. I'm frustrated that I'm not getting on the active roster. It's so many different emotions that I'm experiencing. I got family members, I got friends calling me for money that they would never ask me for. Right? I have people calling me for money that I'm like, yo, I don't even have that. I you asking me for that type of money, like, and then people actually getting mad at me for saying I don't have it right now. If you can borrow from somebody else, I'll give it to you later. And people getting mad at me for that. So I expressed to him, like, there was one day I just walked into my condo at the time, and I had an anxiety attack. I just collapsed because I bottled all of that in. Right? I'm not about to tell it, like, go and tell people, like, man, I really love this girl and I love that girl. I didn't know how. I didn't have any emotional intelligence at all, none whatsoever. So everything that I was going through, I held it in and never said anything to anybody. And after all of that, I had friends finding out that, friends are dying and being murdered. People that I grew up with, like, everything all at once. And I just got I remember walking into my condo and just collapsing. And I laid on the ground for 18 hours. And I laid there with tears in my eyes, and I thought I was dying. Like, I didn't understand, like, why I felt like my heart was trying to come out of my chest. And, after speaking with somebody later on about it, they said you were going through an anxiety attack. I'm like, anxiety? I'm like the most calm person ever. Like, I don't get anxiety. But then after unpacking everything that I was going through mentally, they were like, yeah, that was an anxiety attack. You were suffering through depression. So the only time I wouldn't feel depressed was when I drank. The only time I felt like I didn't have my mind racing and I wasn't, about to cry, it was when I drank. So I would drink every day and I would hide it from people. So I would have a bottle of liquor in my drawer, and that would be breakfast. So, unpacking that story in that moment, that was deep for me. Yeah. Because it was therapy for me and therapy for those students. And they started to express, like, some of the things that they were going through and some of the things that they were doing. And they were like, I've never been able to tell anybody this. So it was just like my vulnerability allowed for them to do the same. And it was healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's awesome because, like, at the end of the day, I said this on a podcast before, but, like, the best thing you could ever do, the best, in my mind, achievement you could ever have is to, like, be mentioned in somebody's success story as that person, that aha person or that mentor that sat you down and say, hey, listen, this is okay. This is what we need to do, but this is okay, and your name will be amongst those, you know what I mean? Obviously, those kids probably, in my opinion, they'll probably remember that conversation for a long time.
Right.
I love speaking and I love bringing the awareness. I love what you're doing as well. And what's sad about it is the need for it. The amount of children and young men that are not getting positive encouragement, that are not getting that mentor to step up and help them. And look, man, I get it's fucking hard. It's hard on everybody. I don't care if you got money or if you don't got money. It's hard. And it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be hard.
Right.
But damn, it makes a whole lot smoother of a route when you have somebody that cares about you. Even if you don't know these people, if you can care about somebody you don't know. I care that you do well in life, right? That's why we do what we do. We speak to people because I don't know the people that are going to watch this. I may never know the people that are going to watch this, but if I put it out and it makes one fraction of positive good for somebody's life, then I've done what I set out to do because that's what I want to do. And that's what you're doing. And I love that because we need it, especially now, times like now, the world is crazy. I feel like every time I turn the TV on, I got to stop watching the news because it looks like everything's tilting more and more into chaos. And we got to have people being the light out there, like you, being the light, talking to these kids, talking to these adults. I was looking at statistics in NFL and kind of doing some So I'm thinking about it, because one of the things I set out to do in my program was, not only bring awareness, but try to reduce the level of suicide in my community. And I started looking at NFL numbers and things of that nature. And, a lot of people say CTE and, head damage is causing, this. And I'm not here to argue it, at all. But one thing I do know is that if you do something from a very young age, and then you spend your entire or a lot of your adult life doing that thing, and you found purpose in that thing, and then that thing is removed from your daily activities and routines, you will struggle with that loss of purpose. Like what you said it earlier. I got to rediscover me. I got to find out who I am. And it's like, you knew who you were since you were in high school. You were the running back. You were the dog. You were the one, and you rode that. Okay, when you can't be the dog anymore, what the fuck am I? And that's how I started seeing it. I wanted to be a senior enlisted, staff NCO or gunnery sergeant that just kept going back and doing my thing. And then the Marine Corps said, hey, you can't do this anymore, ears and psych, and, things are bad. Thank you, though, and we'll take care of you. And it's like, oh, you'll take care of me? And that's not to say you didn't, but I lost everything. I felt like you took everything that meant something to me away from me. And, an injury does that. In the NFL, a lot of times it's the injury. It's not a boss or a coach or a shrink. It's usually like your muscle or your tendon or your bones or your head. Something, took some traumatic damage, and now all in the blink of an eye, you've run your last snap. You've played your last down, and then when you're removed from that, it's kind of like when I get removed. Even if you do it on your own fruition or your own will, that whole family and that whole ideal and that whole system is now over here, and you're not in it anymore. And man, that's hard. I don't care what business or what you do. I liken the sports because I see how alike it is to where I come from. Like it's so much like it. 18, we all went to college. You went to college, we went to the Marine Corps college, right? And then you started playing in games, and that was your whole life. It was what you based your food around. It's what you based your time around. It's, and then boom, it's off. And now you have to sit there and say, what now? And so I guess one of my questions would be, have you not looked into, or do you speak to transitioning athletes who are, let's say, struggling with purpose or struggling trying to reinvent themselves?
I have in the past. I actually created a workbook for transitioning athletes. It's called Players in Transition. It's called the Transition Playbook. That was something that I wanted to grow into instead of just attacking it. I actually had a podcast called the Pit Podcast, to where me and one of my friends, we were talking about the transition out of sports. For some reason, we stopped doing a podcast, where life happened, and he and I stopped doing that podcast. But yeah, that was my sole mission for a while. Really talking to athletes about that transition, because it was rough for me.
Yeah, man. Transition's rough for I think all humans through periods of transitional phases in their lives. That's it comes with its own anxieties and its own worries and its own struggle and such. But I think the older that I get, change is good. Like change is good. It welcomes new experiences and new situational awareness and maybe new culture into your life, and you can maybe understand something from a different perspective. If you always stay in the same place, you will always have the same perspective, right? So change is good, but it doesn't mean it's easy, for sure.
Absolutely.
Now, what does it look like for you now? Like, let's plan out, let's say 2024 coming up. What do you have cooking? Where are you at? Where do you see yourself being?
So I'm on my own now. I was work with a nonprofit organization. But now I am traveling the world, not the world yet, but I'll be traveling in the U.S. as a motivational speaker. But I'm branding myself as a student success coach.
Check.
Yeah, really trying to pour into our youth the same way that a student success coach poured into me when I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
Also with that, there'll be a crazy rebrand, where I won't be just using my name anymore. I'll be using, my actual company. I have a book that's coming out in the new year.
Okay.
Well as a journal and a planner.
Okay.
So
what's the book title? Or do you have a title?
I can't tell you yet.
You can't tell me.
Yeah, I can't tell you yet.
How about how about when you publish it and it's out,
Yeah.
I buy a copy and we'll cover the book on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about that?
It's a great one. I promise. It's a great one. And it ties into the transition.
Hell yeah. Yeah, man. I want to touch on that whenever that's out and rolling. We'll link back up. I'll digest it and we'll link back up and I'll have a whole new batch of questions, I'm sure, man. I love to learn, man. I say this a lot and I have to force myself every day to be a man of my word, but it's so much better if you are a lifelong student. Like if you can look at every situation as a situation in which you can learn something. And those that can learn should learn, and those that can teach should teach. You know what I mean? If you can learn and teach, do them both. But you got to keep learning. Don't be stagnant. So I'm happy about that, man. That's awesome. Author to author. Congratulations. That's dope. Man. Stay on it, man. Stay on it. Keep changing lives. I don't know. What are we looking at time-wise over here?
About an hour and 5 minutes.
Hour and 5.
Get into the NFL career? Or are we...
Yeah, it was there. I know we kind of glossed over the NFL portion, and we don't have to go back if you don't want to. But can you talk about what that's like? I mean, it's got to be. I mean, I know things might not pan out, and there might have some of those emotions, but like even getting on an NFL training squad, being around that level of let's say excellence. I would say any professional athlete carries a level of excellence with them that when you're around it, you could feel that. So what's that? You got it, but like what would I explain it?
All right. Yeah, man, it's definitely the 1% where I'm like, yo, I made it to where less than 1% of people make it to.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm there, I realized that, I really can play football. Like, I used to idolize these guys, and now I'm playing with them and alongside of them. And it's like I had my AI moment, right? Remember when Allen Iverson, crossed Jordan?
Yeah.
I had that moment. I had that moment in practice with Chad Greenway.
Okay. Do tell.
I know he probably gonna kill me for telling this story.
That's all right.
That's why you're here.
It's a video. I don't post the video is not posted anymore. But in practice, I used to really do them dirty in practice.
But you do have the video, right?
Yeah, I got the video. I'll send it to you.
All right. That sounds great.
Chad, if you ever listen to this, man, forgive me. In practice, like Chad used to try to be. He used to be an asshole, man. Chad was, he used to be an asshole, and he would purposely be an asshole to me. One, because I was a young running back, but two, because he actually went to school with my mentor that helped me get into Milford Academy.
Okay.
So there was like an Iowa connection. And I'm like, man, this is one of my favorite linebackers. I actually love defense.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, my favorite players are Ray Lewis and Ed Reed.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I just started playing running back. So in practice, I'm just killing practice, and they're kind of getting mad at me. And he said something, and I'm like, all right, I got you. I'm gonna get you back. He said something. I think he smacked me or something.
Uh-huh.
Something made me mad, but I'm like, I'm gonna get you back. And it's just me and him. The whole open up like the Red Sea. And it's just it's just me and him. And I hit him with a move like left, right, left, and he just tackled air. he tackled air and like rolled, and like they laughed so hard at practice. They said Coach Zimmer rewound it like 9 times.
Oh God. Oh, that's all right.
Man, I used to do that. Like I used to try to work my moves as if I was in the game.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I'm going against the starting defense, I want them to be just as prepared as I want to be prepared. So I would give them my best. And it was just he and I, and he
got it.
Tackled there.
That's awesome, dude. That's a good story. That's awesome.
If you can get me the video, I will splice it in here.
Yeah, it'll be great. Just for Chad. Shout out Chad.
But only if you tell me it's okay.
He won't mind. He had a very illustrious career.
I was gonna say it might burn a little bit, but
yeah,
he'll be all right. He'll be all right. That's funny. You still keep in touch with Kyle, or I know at least a little bit, right?
Yeah, we talk on Instagram from time to time.
Great dude.
But yeah, Kyle's a really good dude, man. Kyle, he's always been that way too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he's good. I had the pleasure, me and Matt both, of working with him in that first deployment of Mars, and I think he went back to second deployment and became a sniper and went along his way. But yeah, if you guys haven't listened to that yet, that's Kyle Mahalik's episode 53. Go check it out. Check it out right now. And he comes from the same hometown. These guys grew up together, and though they took different paths, they both converged back on a path to impacting people's lives and helping the communities that they live in a positive way, for sure. So, well, Matt, you got anything else, brother?
I'm good.
Good. Dom, you got anything that I didn't ask about or didn't cover that you would like to? Because I'm about it.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I know we'll come back once the book and everything's done.
Yeah.
But I kind of cover a majority of my story. I didn't go into detail about that classroom situation because it'll be in the book.
All right, right on. Well, we'll get to it then. Okay, if anything else, I just have one or two last questions. So I would say, young athletes that are out there right now that are finding success and finding shine, if you had 1 minute of advice to give them, or two, what would it be?
Find a mentor. Find somebody that's, either older than you, especially somebody's older than you, but somebody that has taken the path that you've taken, and that are taking the path that you're trying to take. A mentor will get you a lot further than a book will, right? Because that mentor probably already read that book, or that mentor actually has the experience. Not saying you have to follow each and every step that person tells you to take, but they're probably everybody wants to teach, right? And everybody loves to talk about themselves. So if you find a mentor and he just starts telling you everything, listen to him, because he's telling you experiences and things that you can avoid. So if I had 1 minute with any of the young players, man, is find a mentor, because you can't get far alone.
Yeah, you got to have people, man. That's something that you got to learn. The younger you learn that you can't wait, like, it doesn't matter. You will lose if you don't band together, have a network of good people. Great advice, sound advice right there. So my last question is going to be, young kids that are in situations where they're raised on the wrong side of the tracks, or they're in the projects, or they're coming up like you did, and the fact of even dreaming about something bigger than that town seems like a fairy tale to them, because of where they are and because they've never seen somebody that's like them go, or from where they're from go. Talk to those people. What do you got for them?
Man, it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard, but it's supposed to, right? And on the days that you don't feel like doing it, and on the days that you feel like just taking that wrong step, hang in there, right? That's where your discipline really has to set in. For me, I would say evaluate your choices, right? We all know what's the wrong choice. We all know what's the right choice, right? And sometimes that choice may cause you to walk away from friends that have been friends for a long time, but you have to make the right choices for you, not for their entertainment or, being called a sellout or a punk for not wanting to hang with the gang. It's like, yo, if that's not the direction you want to head in, you got to make the choices that are going to steer you exactly where you want to go. Because it's not our thoughts that's going to get us there. It's our decisions from the thoughts that we have. And most of the time you won't get there if your decisions don't align with what you're thinking or what you actually want for your life. So align that. That's all I would say to them, is align your vision with your choices.
Outstanding. I love it. Show me 4 people that you hang out with, and I'll tell you what you'll end up like, right? So you want to be a professional athlete, sharpen the iron with iron, and stay with the people that have the same aspirations, yeah.
Now, here's a quote that I absolutely love, and I say it every speech, and I don't even know who it's by. I gotta figure this out. The quote says, "We are born looking like our parents, but we die looking like our choices." How will you look when it's all said and done?
How will you look? How will you look? Yeah, anybody that's out there listening, that hits me. How will you look? And something else I think, something else I talk about, not to keep dragging this, but you keep bringing things out. But how do you want to be remembered? This is something I tell guys that I talk to now and in speeches that I do. Like, how do you want to be remembered? Like, if you haven't even sat down and thought about, how do I want people to remember me? Like, when I'm gone, how do I want people, how do I want them to talk about me? I want them to say he was a 2-bit crackhead that ran around with a gang the whole beginning of his life and actually ended up turning into nothing because, he didn't have he made bad choices. Okay, some people, like, if that's what you want, that's what you want. Cool, go do that. But if that's not what you want, you should evaluate yourself, evaluate your life, and decide, how do I want to be remembered? And then you need to make an action plan that is consistent with what you want. Just like you said, if your actions and your choices that you're taking are not consistent with the vision you have for your life, you 100% will not get there. You 100% will not get there. So yeah, man, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Well, I guess I'll take no more of your time. I think it's been awesome. And I can't wait till the book comes out. Let's stay in touch about that. So I know where to get it, where to pick it up. And,
definitely.
And yeah, man, we'll run it back when we get that Dom Williams knowledge out and published. It sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good, man. I appreciate you guys for all that you've done and all that you continue to do, man. I salute you for real.
Hey, man, I appreciate that. We'll link up in the future and we'll make it happen again. Until then, guys, this is Ryan and Matt signing off. Choices, not chances. See you next time.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes this episode. Thanks for listening to Choices Not Chances podcast. Please share, like, and subscribe wherever you listen or watch our podcast. You can also follow us on social media at Choices Not Chances podcast. Thanks, and have a great day.
Louisiana Gun Shop, your firearm headquarters, specializing in concealed carry guns, ammo, and training. You can get your Louisiana permit with us. Also a large selection of AR-15s, or if you are that build-it-yourself type of guy or gal, we have all the parts to build and customize your own AR-15. Glock, SIG, Taurus, Ruger, we have all the brands, both in the store or at LouisianaGunShop.com.
Not too far. You're marking the building. Hit him. Yeah, that's good. That's a good shot. That's money. Yeah.